So we went around and we down to the waterfront in Portland, Oregon. That's where I lived in Portland, and asked men all the same question, and we asked women all the same question, and we asked them to finish this sentence. I hate it. If you're a woman, we'd ask you to say, I hate it when men blank, whatever, and they would fill in the blank. I hate it when men spit, and then we'd ask men, I hate it when women do whatever, and they'd say all sorts of things. I hate it when women talk about their old boyfriends, So it was really fun. It was called "Can't Live with Them, Can't Kill Them," and then we put it on public access. And this is in the '90s before we had the internet. Can't put anything up on YouTube, and I would get stopped in public places. And people would tell me how much girls would tell me how much they love the show, because it's the way women talk. We just talk like that. Anyway, we did that, but every man that ever saw the show told me to a man that it was a man hater show. So I realized I needed to do something different if I wanted to discuss the issues between men and women, and translate what men think to women and what women think to men. So I started doing my own show, and I knew I needed a man. Story of my life. I had to get a different man for every show because I couldn't find one man that wanted to be the co-host of a relationship show. I don't know why, but anyway, so I did a different, which actually turned out to be a huge blessing because I got wide varieties of perspectives from different men that were co-hosting the show with me. Now, the qualifications for co-hosting the show was that the man had to be single, because I tried having men that were married or men that were in serious relationships, and one guy in a serious relationship had all his belongings placed on the front doorstep when he returned from the show that night because he hadn't talked about his girlfriend. Well, the show is not about him talking about his girlfriend. It's about him talking about what he thinks about women. And men that are married or in a serious relationship will say what they think the woman that they're with wants them to say, not necessarily what they really think. And so since we were endeavoring to translate man talk to women and women talk to men, that didn't work. And then I'd also joke and I'd say, well, I'm single and I always like meeting single men. So there it is. So anyway, I did that, and that was a lot of fun. So I started doing the show, and I did it like once every 2 weeks. And pretty soon, after a few years of doing this, my sons were older. They were in high school, and so it was really funny. It would have been a fabulous reality TV show. So my sons and their friends, I would bribe them with sushi to come and crew my show. They would run cameras. They would run the soundboard. They would run the video editor. And my oldest son would answer the phones, which didn't work out too terribly well because sometimes he would say, he'd answer the phone and when he just wasn't feeling it, and say, you're paying for cable. Why are you watching? Honey, that doesn't help. Mom needs to have people calling in. Otherwise, it's not a very interesting show. Got to have two-way conversation. So anyway, it was a lot of fun, very popular. I get stopped on the streets all the time from people telling me how much they love the show. But then I started to notice some really scary stuff going on that was not being reported in the news. And especially when I ran I'd run for state legislature in 2000 during the 2000 election. Remember the recount, and I realized that we'd just gone to all vote by mail fraud. That's what I call it, all vote by mail fraud in Oregon. There were no polling places, no places to go in the neighborhood and go meet your friends and go, walk into a booth and vote. No, you got the ballot in the mail. You and your dog and your cat and your long dead relatives, underage children, people that had moved out of the house, people that are still living in there for voting purposes, still residing in their college dorm fraternity or sorority. Cartoon characters, anybody and everybody can now be registered to vote if it's all vote by mail fraud. And that's what it is in Oregon. That's what it is in Washington State. That's what it, for all intents and purposes, is in California. And that, my friends, is why the West Coast is called the Left Coast. So, in any case, I want to take you a little tour of memory lane on YouTube. And the reason is because YouTube has issued me a warning that if I do not have 4,000 hours of viewing and 1,000 subscribers by the 20th of February 2018, I'm losing my ability to place ads on my videos. Now, I quit placing ads on my videos, or to most of them, about a year or two ago, because I realized they were defrauding me. Because here's what they do. They pay people that have these AdSense accounts based on how many people watch their videos and how many minutes they watch the videos. So if they just lock down and make it look like nobody watched your videos, sorry, nobody watched your videos. Not one person, not one new person in a year has watched this video. It's one of the top on the search under this very popular topic, but not one person. Oh, and the video below you on this very popular search has 6 million views, but yours is still stuck at 20,000 views. So essentially, I am in the advertising business. I've sold television, radio, cable time. I've worked at ad agencies all along the West Coast, San Francisco, LA, Portland, and now in Kansas City. And I know how these things work. They are charging. There's a lot of internet digital fraud. Everybody tells you, oh, you got to go digital. Oh, you got to advertise on digital. If I had a nickel for how many times I go in and talk to a client about advertising and they say, oh, I'm all digital. Well, isn't that just hunky-dory? You can't prove a thing. You can't translate. You can tell how many people clicked and saw your ad. That doesn't necessarily translate into how many people actually came in and bought it or clicked on it because they wanted to go follow it and go find your stuff. It's all smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned. Some videos they've found that some people have researched it and then they've looked further, deeper into how many clicks or how many ads they've seen, and they've looked for the size of the ad that was seen on this one particular platform, and they found that the dimensions of the ad are 0 by 0. So it was not really an ad that was seen. So what I believe is happening, I believe YouTube is doing, is I believe they are charging the clients for watching my video. And they are they're charging the clients for watching the video, but yet they're not attributing that view of that they're charging to the advertiser to me, to my website, to my YouTube account. So therefore, they don't have to pay me for bringing viewers to my video and attracting viewers so that they can sell the advertising time to the advertiser. But they're charging the advertiser. That's what I believe is happening, because it doesn't make sense. And it's all content that they don't really like. So I think I know why this is all happening. There's a fella that just left the parent company of YouTube, and that would be the CEO of Google, because Google owns YouTube. So he left, and I want to tell you a little bit more about the fact that Eric Schmidt, I believe his name is, he left, and I think this is why he left. So I'm going to show that to you. Let me shrink this down a little bit. Okay. This is an executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuses. So this is the executive order on the White House website. And I'm going to kind of go through it and what it says. This came out on December 21st. The same day Eric Schmidt decided to pull up roots and vacate the premises at Google. Okay, it says, by the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, 50 U.S. 1701, established sequential, blah, blah, blah. The National Emergency Act 50, the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act, section, and anyway, it identifies the pertinent laws that gives Donald Trump, our president, the right to do what he's doing in this executive order. Okay, so it says, it's very fascinating. Got very little, if any news in the lame stream, fake stream. A friend of mine said Soros stream media. I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, find that the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption that have their source in whole or in substantial part outside the United States, such as those committed or directed by persons listed in the annex to this order, have reached such scope and gravity that they have threatened the stability of international political and economic systems. Human rights abuse and corruption undermine the values that form an essential foundation of stable, secure, and functioning societies, have devastating impacts on individuals, weaken democratic institutions, degrade the rule of law, perpetrate violent conflicts, facilitate activities of dangerous persons, and undermine economic markets. The United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by these same persons. Determined that serious human rights abuse and corruptions around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. And I hereby declare a national emergency. Let me say that again. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. I hereby determine and order all properties and interests in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States or hereafter come within the possession or control of any United States persons of the following persons are blocked and may be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. The persons listed in the annex to this order is one group that gets the property seized. The property is being seized. He has declared a national emergency and is seizing the property of these evil, corrupt people that are, I believe, primarily dealing in human trafficking, all sorts of chicanery and human rights violation, abuse of children, pedophilia. I mean, it's about as scary as you could possibly get. It's so scary, in fact, that people in polite company would never even discuss it. So the one group is the group that was in the annex. Second group is any foreign persons determined by the Secretary of Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General to be responsible for or complicit in or have directly or indirectly engaged in serious human rights abuse, i.e., this is my little commentary, pedophilia. It's human trafficking, which apparently is just out of control. To be a current or former government official or a person acting for or on behalf of such an official who is responsible for or complicit in or has directly or indirectly engaged in. Now, these are the types of things that they're the kind of corruption they're talking about. Corruption, including the misappropriation of state assets, the expropriation of private assets for personal gain, corporation related to government contracts, or the extrication of natural resources, or bribery. That is some of the crimes. Okay, now there are two of the crimes. To transfer or the facilitation of the transfer of proceeds of the corruption. So they deal with corruption, and they've listed all the types of corruption. So if you're an elected official and you use your government, your place in government to profit yourself and your family or whoever, they're going to come after your money. To be here to C. Okay, so let's see what B was. So we get the categories. Maybe B was foreign persons, any person. Okay, current. Okay, these are the types of persons that they're going after. So they've listed those two. C, to be or have been a leader or official of an entity, including a government entity that has engaged in or whose members have engaged in any of the activities described in subsection above of this section relating to leaders or officials' tenure, or an entity whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order as a result of activities related to the leaders or leaders' official tenure, or this is really going after crooked politicians, to have, and now D, this is another group, to have attempted to engage in any activities described in subsection A of this thing. Okay, any person let me get this thing all figured out. Any person determined by the Secretary of State in consultation with the Secretary of State to have materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial material or technical support for any goods or services to or in support of any activity described in subsections blankety blankety blank. Okay, any person whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order. So they're basically taking everybody's money who's corrupt. Any entity, including any government entity that has engaged in or whose members have engaged in any of the activities described in these sections of this section, where the activity is conducted by a foreign person. I got to find out what these little A's and all these things that we're saying. To be owned or controlled by, or to have, to be owned or controlled by, or to have acted or purported to act on or on the behalf of, directly, indirectly, any person whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order. To have attempted to engage in any of the activities described in these sections. The prohibition, now the B down here. The prohibition is subsequent is in subsection A of this section apply excerpt to the extent. Anyway, I want to go back to. I got to find out what all these lists are. The things that they're saying that they get. I don't want to go on to this forever. Subsection. Okay, so that's the. They're all foreign people. These people that are on the list, but it's open to a whole bunch of other people. These are just the starting points. Okay, this one, I went to this place where they were openly, the government with our taxpayer money was holding these carousels of information for people that did not speak English, so that they could get them signed up for welfare. I'm sure we think that they were registering them to vote, and just getting on any public services they can, so they could become dependent on the government, and so they could use their identity, even if they weren't registering them there. They could, once they got their identity set up in the system, they could use their identity to keep voting their liberal Democrats into the office in Oregon. And I tried to infiltrate there and go in, get in line, so I could go into the place to see what exactly was being offered these people. And I got kind of scarily attacked by these thugs.
Once they get that driver's license, they go back to where they came from, and they trade that in for the driver's license of the state they choose to live in. And then from there, they get all their benefits.
I took a video camera and tried to follow a gal who wanted to see what was going on inside and wanted to see about how she could get registered. And she was denied access by the protesters. They were being abusive and rude.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're trying to keep you from...
What are you trying to keep wrong? Let me get a video of you. Let me get some video of you.
No. Hey, come on.
Okay.
Well, this is...
Okay, well, you can't touch my camera.
I'm not touching your camera.
Maybe you can explain to me why.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. You are on private property.
Really? Who's the private property owned by?
Owned by the Farm Workers Union.
So you all are Farm Workers Union members?
Or we're going to have to ask...
Oh, I'm leaving. Okay, is this private property? This is on the sidewalk. This is not private property. Black on this one.
Yeah, no.
Mav, you can't pee in the bushes there.
Do you mind giving your name and write an article for the Alliance?